And whilst this debate continues, let me introduce Donald Omondi Deya, who I have a relationship with in another network, but whose organization EALS also has a relationship with. Mr. Deya is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and was previously the CEO of the East Africa Law Society, and before that, Deputy CEO of the Law Society of Kenya. He has also worked with the Kenya section of the International Commission of Jurists. While at EALS, that's the first one, East African Law Society, he founded the East African Civil Society Organizations Forum. Among other things, he chairs the executive committees of the Pan-African Citizens Network, formerly known as the Center for Citizens Participation, and so on. He has an extensive bio, and I'm going to leave it at that. Over to you, Don. 3 minutes again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Funmi. Time being short, I'd like to speak of 4 things and end with a challenge. And I'm thinking very much of Sudan and South Sudan, as well as my own home country, Kenya. And I think it is important that even though we're living in the magic of the moment of what might be possible in Kenya, that we don't forget the sheer scale of suffering that is going on as we speak in Sudan and South Sudan, the sheer carnage, the arrogance of those generals, those thugs calling themselves generals, and what it means for all the countries of the region. So I want to speak about issues, interconnectedness, regional governance, innovations, and end with a challenge to us all. Issues. What are we learning from the Gen Z in Kenya over the last fortnight? And it's not new. This is also what we learned from the EndSARS moment in Nigeria 4 years ago, from the revolution, the People's Revolution in Sudan in 2019. And we're hearing murmurs of the same coming out in Malawi, in Ghana, over the next few days, is that it's about the issues. The young people, the Gen Z, are going beyond political formations, political movements, political personalities, and they're focusing on the issues. Is it governance? Is it the cost of food? Is it corruption? Is it the conspicuous consumption that our leadership class are putting us through? So really, let's focus on the issues. Yesterday, we had 120,000 young Kenyans in one conversation on X. Over the weekend, we had over 50,000, and they're articulating issues, and they're not shallow. And they've read everything that needs to be read, be it the Constitution, be it the budget, be it the finance bill, and so on. Second is interconnectedness. And both Adwell and I think Lorna, and also, of course, Ambassador Francis Deng spoke about it. Our communities are connected. Our societies are connected. We were divided by lines drawn somewhere else in another epoch. Our economies are very interconnected. Our politics are very interconnected. Our dictators are very interconnected. They're all over each other's business. They're all looting from each other's countries. If you look at the DRC, Eastern DRC, everybody is there. Burundi is there. Rwanda is there. Uganda is there, and so on. If you look at the Horn itself, everybody's in everybody else's business. So the question is, and for us, that's why we established the Africans for the Horn of Africa, because it was not enough to look at the crisis in these different countries, Ethiopia, Sudan, South Sudan, Somalia, in isolation to each other. And even the interests that are affecting them coming from the Gulf and from further afield are all over the place. So we, the people, also have to be interconnected. Our Pan-African solidarity has to be very conscious of this. The people-to-people solidarity, even if you can't affect directly the fate of your sister and your brother in South Sudan, in Darfur, and so on, that you show that you care. The kind of solidarity events we've seen in Nairobi, vigils, talks, and so on, we really must demonstrate that more. But this brings out a third issue, the importance of regional governance. If we are so interconnected, the national governance systems, the kinds that we're talking about, are not enough. So we have to relook at the African Union. We have to relook at IGAD, at the East African Community, ECOWAS, and so on, with this light that you may be a platform that helps us do the regional governance, including governance of the people. And it's not a granted. ECOWAS right now is on its deathbed. The people of West Africa have rejected ECOWAS because it is not fit for purpose. It is not where they are. Last week, we were telling our colleagues from the East African community the same, that our Pan-Africanness predated you and transcends you. We can do without you. We will not do without our Pan-Africanness, but we can do without you. So the challenge is on both those that work inside these bodies, EAC, IGAD, AU, and also on us outside to see how we reform them to be fit for purpose, to be effective for the kind of governance that we want. And innovations are possible, and that's my fourth point. Governance has collapsed in Sudan. The generals are just shooting each other, nothing else. The young people of Sudan have innovated emergency response rooms. They're the ones who are providing food for each other, water for each other, treatment for each other, and so on. So it's this kind of innovation that I have in mind. 120,000 young Kenyans, supported by their colleagues from the region, having a conversation, bigger than any rally than any politician has ever held in Kenya from our independence and even before. So I think we really have to look at that. And the other areas we can look at. A gentleman in the room, can be stand for up for a second, supported by, he's from South Sudan but exiled in Kenya, supported by 3 East Africans, Diana Gishengo from Kenya, Andrew Karamaji from Uganda, and Deos Valentin Roemamu from Tanzania, have just sued the government of South Sudan, you can see it, at the East African Court of Justice, to declare a huge new debt that Salva Kiir and his thugs have taken, to be declared odious debt. And they've named the culprit, a shadowy organization coming from United Arab Emirates that's probably related to the king, called Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa. Mortgaging all known oil reserves in Sudan. Everything that we know exists is already mortgaged and will be sold off to this law at $10 below the market rate. So he doesn't care about intergenerational equity, which we are litigating in the case. But he even doesn't care about those that exist right now. And this is done in violation of the Constitution of South Sudan, the Public Finance Management Act of South Sudan, the parliamentary standing orders, and so on. So just like our Mozambican colleagues did with the, what is called the tuna boat scandal, with the help of the Pan-African Lawyers Union, we're saying this is odious debt. It's between Salva Kiir and Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa, has nothing to do with the South Sudanese people, can't pay, won't pay. So we must be more audacious and more daring. And we end with challenge. Earlier on, Lorna, I think you spoke about the Tumaini initiative with respect to South Sudan. But you also articulated the unending transition and the fact that these people that we're dealing with are quite intent on never finishing any conversation. They will not. You know, they will pretend to, but they will not. So I'd like to remind you of another name in Swahili from my youth, the Ufungamano Initiative in Kenya between 1999 and I would say 2005. At a time when Moi, Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, had agreed we need a new constitution, but was completely impeding the arriving at a genuine constitution and was trying to give us a sham constitutional commission of his own, which was taking us nowhere. The people of Kenya, led by their civic leaders, their academic leaders, their faith-based leaders, got together and formed what we call the Fungamano Initiative and began writing our own constitution. So he had his commission that had legality because it had been passed by its parliament. We had our commission that had legitimacy because it was born of the people. And it took the magic, sheer charm and charisma of one of our older brothers, Yashpal Gai, when Moi tried to instrumentalize him, to unite these two and started a process that ended up with what we now call the 2010 Constitution. So my challenge to my people of South Sudan, don't wait for Salva Kiir and his thugs. Form your own commissions and begin writing your own constitution for yourself. Thank you.